The dust cloud rising from the wagon road caught Nathan Jennings' attention as he hammered the last nail into the fence post. And when he straightened to wipe the sweat from his brow, he saw two women approaching his ranch in a battered wagon that looked ready to fall apart with the next strong wind. The late afternoon sun of August 1876 cast long shadows across his property outside Breckenridge, Colorado. And something about the desperate way the driver urged the exhausted horse forward made Nathan set down his tools and start walking toward the main road. As the wagon drew closer, Nathan could make out more details. The woman holding the reins appeared to be in her early 20s, her dark hair escaping from beneath a dusty bonnet, her face streaked with dirt and what might have been tears. Beside her sat another woman, younger, wrapped in blankets despite the summer heat, her head lolling against the first woman's shoulder. The horse pulling the wagon stumbled and Nathan broke into a run. "Hold on there," Nathan called out, reaching the wagon just as it came to a jerking stop. Up close, he could see the pure exhaustion in the driver's green eyes, the way her hands trembled on the reins. "Looks like you folks could use some help." The woman opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out at first. She swallowed hard, tried again. "Please, sir." "My sister, she is burning with fever. I have been driving for 3 days. The last town they turned us away, said they did not want sickness spreading. I do not know where else to go." Nathan moved around to the side of the wagon and looked at the younger woman wrapped in blankets. Even from a distance, he could feel the heat radiating from her. Her face was flushed, her breathing shallow and rapid. "What is your name, Miss?" Eleanor Porter. "This is my sister, Catherine. She is 18. I am 23. Eleanor's voice cracked. "I have been trying to keep her cool, but the fever keeps climbing. Please, if you could just point me toward a doctor, a town that might help us." Nathan made a decision in that moment, one that would change the course of his life, though he did not know it yet. "I am Nathan Jennings. This is my ranch. Come on, let me help you get your sister inside. I have a room, clean beds. There is a doctor in Breckenridge about 5 miles from here. I will ride for him once we get Catherine settled." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "You would do that? You do not even know us." "We could be anyone. You are 2 women in trouble and your sister needs help. That is all I need to know." Nathan reached up and carefully lifted Catherine from the wagon. She weighed almost nothing, and her head fell against his chest as he carried her toward the house. "Eleanor, can you manage to walk? You look about ready to collapse yourself." "I can walk," Eleanor said, though she swayed as she climbed down from the wagon. Nathan noticed she steadied herself against the wagon side before following him toward the ranch house. The house was modest but well kept, a 2-story structure Nathan had built himself over the past 4 years since settling on this land. He pushed open the door with his shoulder and carried Catherine upstairs to the guest bedroom, laying her gently on the bed. Eleanor appeared in the doorway a moment later, gripping the frame as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "There is water in the pitcher there," Nathan said, gesturing to the washstand. "Get her out of those heavy blankets and try to cool her down with wet cloths." "I am going to ride for Doc Henderson right now. Will you be all right here alone for an hour or so?" Eleanor nodded, already moving toward her sister. "Thank you. I do not know how to thank you properly. Just take care of your sister. I will be back as soon as I can." Nathan left the room and took the stairs 2 at a time, his mind already calculating the fastest route to town. His horse, a strong bay gelding named Duke, was in the barn, and within minutes Nathan was riding hard toward Breckenridge. The town was bustling with late afternoon activity when Nathan arrived. Breckenridge had grown significantly since gold had been discovered in the area years before, though the initial rush had settled into a more stable mining community. Nathan tied Duke outside Doc Henderson's office and burst through the door. Doc Henderson, a graying man in his 50s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles, looked up from the medical journal he was reading. "Nathan, what brings you in such a hurry?" "Got a young woman at my place, 18 years old, burning up with fever. Her sister has been driving for 3 days trying to find help. Can you come?" The doctor was already reaching for his medical bag. "Of course. Let me get my horse. Did the sister say anything about other symptoms?" "Rash, cough, anything like that?" "She did not mention anything else, but she looked dead on her feet herself. I did not want to delay getting you there." They rode back to the ranch together, Doc Henderson's mare keeping pace with Duke. Nathan found himself thinking about the desperation in Eleanor's eyes, the way she had looked at him as if he were her last hope. He had been living alone on this ranch for 4 years now, ever since leaving his family's farm in Missouri to make his own way in Colorado. The solitude had suited him, or so he had told himself. But seeing those 2 women in trouble had awakened something in him, a protective instinct he had not realized he possessed. When they arrived back at the ranch, Nathan led the doctor upstairs. Eleanor was sitting beside Catherine's bed, gently wiping her sister's face with a damp cloth. She looked up when they entered, hope and fear mingling in her expression. "This is Doc Henderson," Nathan said. "Best doctor in Breckenridge." The doctor moved to Catherine's side and began his examination, checking her pulse, listening to her breathing, looking at her eyes and throat. Eleanor watched anxiously, twisting her hands together. Nathan touched her elbow gently and gestured toward the door. "Let him work. You should come downstairs, have some water, maybe something to eat." "I should stay with her," Eleanor protested, but her voice was weak. "The doc will call if he needs anything. You are not going to do your sister any good if you collapse from exhaustion." Nathan kept his voice gentle but firm. "Come on, just for a few minutes." Reluctantly, Eleanor allowed him to lead her downstairs to the kitchen. Nathan pumped fresh water into a cup and handed it to her, then began slicing bread and cheese. Eleanor drank the water gratefully, her hand still trembling slightly as she held the cup. "I cannot thank you enough," she said quietly. "The last town, Fairplay, they actually threw rocks at our wagon to drive us away, said they could not risk fever spreading. I did not know where else to go. We were running out of food, water. The horse was about done in. I thought maybe if I could just make it a bit farther." "How far have you come?" Nathan asked, setting the food in front of her. "From Kansas. Near Dodge City. Our parents died last winter, influenza. It was just Catherine and me. We had a small farm, but without our father we could not manage it. The bank took it. I had an aunt in Denver, or I thought I did. When we finally got to Denver 2 weeks ago, we found out she had died 6 months prior." Eleanor's voice broke, and she pressed her hand to her mouth. "I did not know what to do. We started back east, but then Catherine got sick. And once she was sick, no one would help us. They all turned us away." Nathan felt anger rising in his chest at the thought of people turning away 2 women in desperate need. "Well, you are safe here. Your sister will get better, and you can stay as long as you need to figure out your next steps." Eleanor looked at him with those striking green eyes, tears spilling over. "Why are you being so kind? You do not know us. We have no money to pay you or the doctor." "Because it is the right thing to do," Nathan said simply, "and you do not need to worry about payment. Just focus on getting your sister well." Doc Henderson came downstairs a few minutes later. His expression was serious but not grim. "The good news is that I do not think it is anything contagious like cholera or typhoid. My best guess is that it is a severe respiratory infection, possibly pneumonia. The bad news is that she is very weak, likely from poor nutrition and exhaustion on top of the illness. The next few days will be critical. She needs rest, fluids, and I will leave some medicine to help bring down the fever and fight the infection." "What can I do?" Eleanor asked immediately. "Keep her cool, get her to drink as much water as possible, give her the medicine every 4 hours. If the fever does not break in the next 2 days, send for me again. And Miss Porter, you need to rest too. You are not going to be any good to your sister if you make yourself sick." The doctor looked at Nathan. "Do you have supplies here to take care of 2 guests?" "I will make it work," Nathan said. "I can ride into town tomorrow, stock up on what we need." Doc Henderson nodded. "Good. I will come check on Catherine in 2 days if I do not hear from you sooner." He packed up his bag and Nathan walked him out, pressing money into the doctor's hand despite his protests. When Nathan returned to the kitchen, Eleanor was eating the bread and cheese mechanically, as if she had forgotten what food tasted like. "The doc said 2 days will tell us if she is going to pull through," Nathan said gently. "But he seemed hopeful. That is a good sign." "I need to go back up to her," Eleanor said, starting to rise. "In a minute, finish eating. I am going to make up a proper meal for you both, something with more substance." "When did you last have a hot meal?" Eleanor had to think about it. "For days, maybe 5. We ran out of money for anything except basic supplies." Nathan started a fire in the stove and pulled out ingredients for a simple beef stew. His mother had taught him to cook before he left home, insisting that a man needed to be able to feed himself properly. He had been grateful for that knowledge many times over the past 4 years. As he worked, he was aware of Eleanor watching him with a mixture of exhaustion and curiosity. "You run this ranch alone?" she asked. "Mostly. I have a couple of ranch hands who come in during busier seasons, but right now it is just me. I have about 30 head of cattle, some chickens, a vegetable garden. It is not much, but it is mine." "How long have you been here?" 4 years come September. "I left Missouri when I was 24, wanted to make my own way without being under my father's shadow. He had plans for me to take over the family farm, marry the daughter of his business partner, live the life he had chosen. I wanted to choose my own life." Nathan stirred the pot, adding herbs from the jars on his shelf. "My family did not take it well when I left, but I have not regretted it. This land, this life, I built it with my own hands. That must take a lot of courage," Eleanor said softly, "leaving everything familiar behind." "Sometimes staying takes more courage than leaving," Nathan replied. "Sounds like you know something about that, leaving Kansas to find a new life." "I did not have much choice," Eleanor said. "There was nothing left for us there. I thought if I could just get us to Denver to my aunt we would be safe, have a fresh start. I did not count on her being gone or on Catherine getting sick or on people being so cruel." Her voice hardened slightly on the last words. Nathan turned from the stove to look at her. "People get scared when they see sickness. They think about their own families, protecting their own. It is not right, but it is understandable in a way." "Is that what you think? That I should understand?" There was a flash of fire in Eleanor's eyes now, exhaustion giving way to anger. "My sister was dying, and they threw rocks at us, told us to keep moving or they would shoot the horse out from under us. How am I supposed to understand that? I did not say you should forgive it. I just said I understand why people react that way. It does not make it right." Nathan held her gaze steadily. "And for what it is worth, I think they were wrong, dead wrong." Eleanor's anger faded as quickly as it had appeared. She slumped in her chair. "I am sorry. I should not snap at you. You have been nothing but kind. You are exhausted and worried sick about your sister. I think you are entitled to snap a little." Nathan ladled stew into 2 bowls. "Here, eat this. Then you should get some rest yourself. I will sit with Catherine tonight." "No, I should be the one," Eleanor protested. "You can take over in the morning. Right now, you need sleep or you are going to make yourself sick too. The doc was right about that. Nathan set one of the bowls in front of her and took the other upstairs to try to get some broth into Catherine. The young woman was still deeply asleep, her face flushed with fever. Nathan managed to get her to swallow a few spoonfuls of broth, and some of the medicine the doctor had left before she drifted off again. He settled into the chair beside the bed, preparing for a long night. Eleanor appeared in the doorway an hour later. She had washed her face and hands, and though she still looked exhausted, she seemed steadier. "I cannot sleep," she admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see Catherine getting worse, dying, and me being completely alone in the world." "She is not going to die," Nathan said with more confidence than he felt. "She is young and strong. She will pull through this." Eleanor came into the room and sat on the edge of the bed, taking her sister's hand. "When our parents died, I promised them I would take care of her, that I would keep her safe. I feel like I have failed at every turn." "You have not failed. You have fought for her every step of the way. You got her here to help. That is what matters." Nathan watched as Eleanor gently brushed a strand of hair from Catherine's forehead. The tenderness in that gesture touched something deep in his chest. They sat in silence for a while, listening to Catherine's labored breathing. Finally, Eleanor spoke again. "Tell me about Missouri, about your family." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister. My father runs a successful farm, one of the largest in the county. He is a hard man, demanding, always pushing for more. My mother is gentler, but she learned long ago not to contradict him. When I told them I was leaving, my father said I was throwing away my future, that I would come crawling back within a year, begging for my place again. But you did not." "No, I did not. I will not say it has been easy. That first winter nearly broke me. The cabin I had built was not as sound as I thought, and the cold got in through every crack. I lost half my cattle to disease the second year. But I learned, I adapted, I survived. And now I have something that is truly mine." "Do you miss them? Your family?" Nathan considered the question. "I miss my mother sometimes. And my sister, Mary, she is about your age now, probably married with children of her own. But my father, my brothers, the life they wanted for me, no, I do not miss that." "What about the woman you were supposed to marry, Margaret?" "She married my oldest brother 6 months after I left. I think she was more interested in the farm than in me specifically. They are probably very happy together." Nathan smiled wryly. "I wanted more than a marriage of convenience. I wanted to marry someone I actually loved, someone who understood me. My father thought that was foolish, romantic nonsense." Eleanor looked at him with something like understanding in her eyes. "My parents had a love match. Everyone said my father married beneath his station when he chose my mother, who was a seamstress's daughter. But they were happy together, right up until the end. I always wanted that kind of love too." "You are still young. You will find it," Nathan said. "I am 23, nearly an old maid by most standards. And now I have no home, no family except Catherine, no prospects at all." Eleanor's voice was matter-of-fact rather than self-pitying. 23 is not old, and circumstances change. Once Catherine is well, you will figure out what comes next." They talked through the night, taking turns dozing in the chair while the other watched Catherine. Nathan learned that Eleanor had been educated by her mother, that she loved reading but rarely had access to books, that she had a talent for sewing, and had helped support the family by taking in mending work after their father's health began to fail. Eleanor learned that Nathan had a gift for working with horses, that he had read every book he could get his hands on growing up, that he dreamed of eventually expanding his ranch and maybe breeding horses alongside cattle. By dawn, Catherine's fever had dropped slightly. She was still very sick, but she seemed to be breathing a bit easier. Eleanor finally agreed to go lie down in Nathan's room while he stayed with Catherine. Nathan watched her go, struck by how much he had enjoyed talking with her through the night. It had been a long time since he had connected with someone that way. Over the next 2 days, Catherine slowly improved. The fever broke on the second night, and though she was weak, she was able to drink water and eat small amounts of food. Eleanor cried with relief when Catherine opened her eyes and spoke her name clearly for the first time since arriving at the ranch. "Where are we?" Catherine asked, her voice hoarse. "We are at the ranch of a very kind man named Nathan Jennings. He took us in when no one else would, got the doctor for you. You have been very sick, but you are getting better now." Eleanor held her sister's hand tightly. "I remember being so cold, even though I was hot. I remember you telling me to hold on, that we were almost there." Catherine looked around the room. "This is a nice place." "It is. And Mr. Jennings says we can stay as long as we need to. You just need to focus on getting your strength back." Doc Henderson came that afternoon to check on Catherine and pronounced himself pleased with her progress. "She is out of danger now, but it will take time for her to fully recover. She needs to stay in bed for at least another week, then slowly start moving around. Good food, rest, that is what she needs now." After the doctor left, Eleanor found Nathan in the barn, tending to the horses. "I want to thank you properly," she said. "You saved my sister's life. I do not know how I will ever repay you." Nathan straightened from checking Duke's hooves. "I do not want repayment. I am just glad she is going to be all right. But we cannot just stay here indefinitely, imposing on your hospitality. Once Catherine is strong enough to travel, we will need to figure out where to go, what to do." Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself. "I have been thinking about it, and I do not know what the answer is. We have no money, no family, nowhere to go." "Then stay here," Nathan said simply. "At least until you figure things out. I could use help around the ranch. The house needs a woman's touch, someone to help with the cooking and mending. You said you were good at sewing. I would pay you fair wages." Eleanor stared at him. "You would do that? Take us on as workers? Why not? It makes sense. You need a place to stay. I could use the help. And besides," Nathan paused, choosing his words carefully, "I have enjoyed having company. These past few days talking with you, it has made me realize how lonely I have been out here." A flush crept up Eleanor's cheeks. "I have enjoyed talking with you too. You are not like anyone I have known before. You are kind without being condescending, strong without being harsh. I have never met a man quite like you." They stood there in the barn, awareness crackling between them like static before a storm. Nathan wanted to reach out, touch her face, tell her that he had not been able to stop thinking about her since she arrived at his ranch. But it was too soon, too complicated. She was vulnerable, dependent on his help. He would not take advantage of that. "So you will stay?" he asked instead. "We will stay," Eleanor agreed. "At least for a while, until we can figure out something more permanent." Over the following weeks, a routine developed. Catherine slowly regained her strength, moving from bed to chair to carefully walking around the upstairs. Eleanor threw herself into improving the ranch house, cleaning thoroughly, mending curtains and linens, cooking proper meals. Nathan found himself looking forward to coming in from his work to find Eleanor in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner. They fell into easy conversation over meals, sharing stories and dreams and observations about the world. Catherine proved to have a sunny disposition, despite everything they had been through. As she grew stronger, she began helping Eleanor with lighter tasks, and she teased her sister mercilessly about the way Eleanor's eyes followed Nathan whenever he was in the room. "You like him," Catherine said one afternoon when they were shelling peas on the porch. "Really like him." "Hush," Eleanor said, glancing around to make sure Nathan was not nearby. He has been very kind to us, that is all. That is not all. I see the way you look at him. And the way he looks at you, like you are the most precious thing he has ever seen." Catherine grinned. "I think it is wonderful. He is handsome and kind and clearly head over heels for you." "He has not said anything of the sort," Eleanor protested, but her heart was beating faster. "Of course he has not. He is being a gentleman, waiting for me to be fully recovered so you do not feel pressured or obligated. But mark my words, once he thinks the timing is right, he is going to tell you how he feels." Catherine looked at her sister seriously. "And when he does, I hope you will let yourself be happy. After everything you have done for me, you deserve happiness." Eleanor did not know what to say to that. It was true that her feelings for Nathan had grown far beyond gratitude. She found herself watching him work, admiring the strength in his shoulders, the gentleness in his hands when he handled the animals, the sound of his laugh when something amused him. She treasured their conversations, the way he listened to her opinions and treated them as worthy of consideration. She had never met a man who respected her mind the way Nathan seemed to. But she was also afraid. Afraid of misreading the situation, afraid of ruining the safe haven they had found, afraid of being hurt if her feelings were not returned. So she kept silent, even as the tension between them grew more palpable with each passing day. The situation came to a head one evening in late September. Catherine had been well enough to start taking short walks around the property, always carefully chaperoned by Eleanor. On this particular evening, Nathan suggested that Eleanor take a walk with him down to the creek while Catherine rested after dinner. "I promise I will be fine for an hour," Catherine said, shooing them out. "Go enjoy the evening. It is beautiful out." Eleanor grabbed her shawl and followed Nathan outside. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They walked in comfortable silence until they reached the creek, where cottonwood trees provided a natural canopy. Nathan picked up a flat stone and skipped it across the water, watching it bounce 3 times before sinking. "I used to do that with my sister Mary," he said. "We would have contests to see who could make the stone skip the most times. She usually won." "You miss her," Eleanor observed. "I do. I have been thinking lately about writing to her, trying to reconnect. I do not know if she would write back, but I think I should try." Nathan turned to face Eleanor. "You have changed things for me, made me realize that pushing everyone away is not the same as being independent. That letting people in does not make you weak." Eleanor's breath caught. "Nathan, let me finish, please." He took a step closer. "When you arrived here, I thought I was just helping 2 women in trouble. That was what I told myself. But the truth is, from the moment I saw you, something shifted in me. And these past weeks, getting to know you, seeing your strength and your kindness and your quick mind, I have fallen for you, Eleanor. Hard and completely." "You have." Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. "I have. I know the timing might not be ideal. I know you might not feel the same way, and I do not want you to feel obligated because I helped you. You can stay here regardless, I promise you that. But I had to tell you the truth. I am in love with you, Eleanor Porter. I think I have been since the moment you looked at me with those green eyes and asked for help." Eleanor felt tears sliding down her cheeks, but they were tears of joy. "I was so afraid you did not feel the same way. I have been falling in love with you too, Nathan. The way you took us in without question, the way you treat Catherine with such kindness, the way you talk to me like my thoughts matter, everything about you. I have never felt this way about anyone before." Nathan reached up and cupped her face in his hands, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "Can I kiss you, please?" Eleanor breathed. When their lips met, it felt like coming home. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as weeks of suppressed longing poured out. Nathan's arms came around Eleanor, pulling her close, and she melted against him, her hands gripping his shirt. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I love you," Nathan said again, resting his forehead against hers. "I want you to stay here, not as a worker, but as my wife. I want to build a life with you. I know it is fast, but when you know, you know. At least that is how I feel." "I feel the same way," Eleanor said. "Yes, Nathan. Yes, I will marry you." They kissed again, and Eleanor felt like her heart might burst from happiness. After so much hardship, so much fear and uncertainty, she had found not just safety but love. Real, deep, abiding love with a man who saw her for who she truly was and loved her anyway. When they returned to the house, Catherine took one look at their faces and started laughing. "Finally. I thought you two were going to dance around each other forever. So when is the wedding?" Nathan and Eleanor looked at each other and started laughing too. "Soon," Nathan said. "As soon as we can arrange it. I do not want to wait any longer than necessary." They were married 3 weeks later in Breckenridge, with Doc Henderson and his wife as witnesses and Catherine as Eleanor's attendant. Eleanor wore a dress she had sewn herself from fabric Nathan bought her, simple but elegant in cream-colored cotton. Nathan wore his best suit, his hair neatly combed, his eyes shining as he watched Eleanor walk toward him. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed Eleanor with such tenderness that Catherine had to wipe away tears. They had a small celebration dinner at the hotel in town, and then returned to the ranch as the sun was setting. Catherine had very tactfully announced that she was tired and would be retiring early to her room, giving the newlyweds privacy. Nathan carried Eleanor over the threshold, both of them laughing at the tradition. Once inside, he set her down gently and took both her hands in his. "I have never been happier than I am right now," he said. "You are my wife, my wife. I still cannot quite believe it." "I am right here," Eleanor said, reaching up to touch his face. "And I am not going anywhere. This is our home now, our life together." They made love that night with a combination of passion and tenderness, discovering each other, learning what brought pleasure, what made the other gasp and moan. Afterward, they lay tangled together in Nathan's bed, now their bed, talking softly about their dreams for the future. "I want to expand the ranch," Nathan said, tracing lazy patterns on Eleanor's arm. "Maybe focus more on horses. And I want to build a bigger house with proper bedrooms for children." "Children?" Eleanor asked, smiling. "If we are blessed with them, do you want children?" "I do. Very much. I want to fill this house with love and laughter." Eleanor snuggled closer to him. "And I want Catherine to find happiness too. She deserves it after everything she has been through." "She will. She is a lovely young woman. Once word gets around that there is an eligible young lady at the Jennings ranch, the young men will come calling." As it turned out, Nathan was right. Catherine did attract attention, but not from young ranch hands or miners. It came from an unexpected source, the new schoolteacher in Breckenridge. William Marsh was a 24-year-old man from Boston who had come west seeking adventure and a fresh start after his fiancée had left him for someone wealthier. He had steady brown eyes, a quick wit, and a passion for education that matched Catherine's hunger for learning. They met when Catherine accompanied Eleanor into town for supplies 2 months after the wedding. William was purchasing books for the school, and he struck up a conversation with Catherine about literature. By the time they left the general store, William had managed to invite himself to dinner at the ranch the following Sunday. Eleanor teased Catherine about it mercilessly on the ride home. "He could barely take his eyes off you. I thought his head was going to spin completely around trying to watch you walk away." Catherine blushed but looked pleased. "He seems very nice and educated. It is refreshing to talk to someone who has read the same books I have." Sunday dinner became a regular occurrence, with William making the ride out to the ranch each week. Nathan and Eleanor watched with amusement as the schoolteacher courted Catherine with the same determined focus he brought to teaching. By Christmas, William had asked Nathan's permission to court Catherine formally, and by February he was asking for her hand in marriage. Catherine said yes without hesitation, her face glowing with happiness. The wedding was planned for April, giving Eleanor time to make Catherine a beautiful dress and prepare for a larger celebration than she and Nathan had enjoyed. On the day of Catherine's wedding, Eleanor found herself feeling emotional. Her little sister was getting married, starting her own life and family. Catherine would move into Breckenridge to live with William in the house that came with his teaching position. They would only be 5 miles away, but it would be different from living under the same roof. "Stop crying," Catherine said, adjusting her veil in the mirror. "You are going to make me cry too, and then my eyes will be all red for the wedding. I cannot help it. I am so happy for you, but I am going to miss having you here every day." Eleanor fussed with the lace on Catherine's sleeves. "Promise me you will visit often." "Of course I will, and you will visit me. We are not losing each other, Eleanor. We are just starting the next chapter." Catherine turned to face her sister. "Thank you for everything you did for me. For keeping me alive when I was sick, for getting us here, for fighting for us when everyone else turned us away. You saved my life, and now I get to live it with a wonderful man because you never gave up." The sisters embraced, both crying now despite their best efforts. There was a knock on the door and Nathan poked his head in. "The guests are getting restless. Are we ready?" "We are ready," Catherine said, taking a deep breath and composing herself. The wedding was beautiful, held in the small church in Breckenridge with what felt like half the town in attendance. William could not stop smiling as Catherine walked down the aisle, and when they exchanged vows, there was not a dry eye in the house. At the reception afterward, Eleanor and Nathan danced together, watching Catherine and William do the same. "We did a good thing," Nathan said. "Taking them in, look how happy she is." "We did. And I am happy too. Happier than I ever imagined I could be." Eleanor rested her head on Nathan's shoulder. "I love you so much. I love you too. More than words can express." Life settled into a comfortable rhythm over the following months. True to his word, Nathan began expanding the ranch, focusing more on breeding horses. Eleanor discovered she had a knack for training the animals, and soon they were developing a reputation for producing quality horses. The business grew steadily, and they hired on additional help to manage the increased workload. Catherine and William visited often, and Eleanor and Nathan made regular trips into town. The two couples became close friends with several other families in the area, creating a small but tight-knit community. Eleanor joined the ladies' auxiliary at the church, using her sewing skills to help raise money for various causes. Nathan became involved in local politics, advocating for fair treatment of smaller ranchers against the interests of the big cattle barons who dominated the territory. A year after their wedding, Eleanor discovered she was pregnant. Nathan was overjoyed, immediately becoming overprotective and insisting she cut back on her activities. Eleanor tolerated his fussing with amused patience, even as she continued to do most of her normal work until she physically could not anymore. Their son was born in March of 1878, a healthy baby with Nathan's dark hair and Eleanor's green eyes. They named him Henry James Jennings, and Nathan held his son with such tenderness that Eleanor fell in love with him all over again. Watching the strong, capable man she had married cradle their tiny baby and sing lullabies in a soft voice made her heart overflow. Catherine and William welcomed their first child, a daughter named Sarah. just 6 months later. The cousins would grow up close, spending summers running wild on the ranch and winters playing together in town. Eleanor loved watching Henry grow, loved seeing Nathan teach their son about horses and the land, loved the life they had built together. 2 years later, they had another son, Thomas, and 2 years after that, a daughter they named Rose. The house Nathan had built was expanded twice to accommodate their growing family. The ranch prospered, allowing them to hire on permanent ranch hands and even build a small bunkhouse for the workers. Nathan wrote to his sister Mary, and after some initial awkwardness, they rekindled their relationship. Mary and her husband visited one summer with their 3 children, and it was clear how much it meant to Nathan to reconnect with that part of his past. He was even able to make a tentative peace with his father, though the relationship would never be close. But it was enough. Eleanor maintained her close bond with Catherine, the sisters visiting each other at least once a week, despite their busy lives. They often remarked on how fortunate they were, how different their lives could have been if Nathan had not opened his home and his heart to 2 desperate women on that August day in 1876. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan took Eleanor back to the creek where he had first told her he loved her. The children were with Catherine and William for the evening, giving them rare time alone. They sat beneath the cottonwood trees, watching the water flow past, Nathan's arm around Eleanor's shoulders. "You remember standing here 10 years ago?" Nathan asked. "I was so nervous. I thought you might laugh at me for falling in love so quickly." "I would never have laughed." "I felt exactly the same way." Eleanor leaned into him. "Sometimes I still cannot believe how lucky we are, that you were the one we found that day, that you were kind when others were cruel, that you saw us as people worth saving. You were always worth saving, worth everything." Nathan kissed the top of her head. "You gave me something I did not even know I was missing. A family. A purpose beyond just surviving. Real, deep happiness. I spent 4 years alone on this ranch telling myself I was content, but I was just lonely. You filled all those empty places in my heart. You filled mine too. When our parents died, when the farm was taken, when Catherine got sick and everyone turned us away, I felt so alone, so hopeless. And then there you were, like an answer to a prayer I had not even known to pray. You saved us, Nathan. You saved me." Eleanor turned in his arms to face him. "I love you more now than I did the day we married. I did not think that was possible, but it is. Every day with you is a gift." They kissed as the sun set, the same way they had 10 years before. But now they had a decade of memories behind them, a life built together, children who bore their features and their love. They had weathered hard winters and dry summers, sickness and health, the normal trials of life. And through it all, their love had only grown stronger. As they walked back to the house hand in hand, Eleanor thought about that terrified young woman who had driven a dying sister in a broken wagon, not knowing where to turn or what to do. She thought about the desperation, the fear, the crushing weight of responsibility. And she thought about how Nathan had appeared like a miracle, taking them in without question, offering not just shelter but genuine kindness. That scared young woman could never have imagined this life. This beautiful, full, joyful life. 3 healthy children, a thriving ranch, a husband who loved her with his whole heart, a sister happy and well, friends and community and purpose. It was more than Eleanor had ever dared to dream of during those dark days on the road. The house was warm and welcoming as they entered, lamplight glowing in the windows. This was home. Not just a physical structure, but a feeling. A place where love lived and grew and flourished. A place they had built together from nothing but hope and hard work and devotion to each other. That night, lying in bed with Nathan's arms around her, Eleanor sent up a silent prayer of thanks. for second chances, for answered prayers, for the cowboy who had opened his home and his heart when she needed refuge for her sister, for the love that had grown from that simple act of kindness into something beautiful and enduring. Nathan stirred beside her, pulling her closer. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured sleepily. "Just how grateful I am for you, for this life, for everything." Eleanor kissed his shoulder. "Go back to sleep, I love you." "Love you too," Nathan mumbled, already drifting off. Eleanor smiled into the darkness, her hand resting over Nathan's where it lay on her waist. Tomorrow they would pick up the children from Catherine's, and the house would be full of noise and laughter again. There would be meals to cook and animals to tend, and 100 other tasks that filled their days. But tonight, it was just the two of them, together in the home they had made, wrapped in the love they had built. The years continued to pass with the steady rhythm of ranch life. Henry grew into a responsible young man who shared his father's gift with horses. Thomas developed a head for business and helped expand their breeding operation into something even more successful. Rose, their youngest, inherited Eleanor's quick mind and independence, declaring at age 12 that she intended to become a doctor, much to everyone's surprise and pride. Catherine and William had 2 more children after Sarah, creating a large extended family that gathered often for holidays and celebrations. The bond between the two families remained strong, with the cousins as close as siblings. Catherine often told her children the story of how Aunt Eleanor had saved her life, and how Uncle Nathan had saved them both. The children would listen wide-eyed, unable to imagine a time when their beloved aunt and uncle had not been part of the family. As the years turned into decades, Nathan's hair turned silver at the temples, and Eleanor found fine lines around her eyes from years of smiling. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it deepened with time, roots growing strong and deep like the cottonwood trees by the creek. They still took walks together in the evenings when they could, still talked for hours about everything and nothing, still looked at each other with the same warmth they had felt from the beginning. When Henry turned 21, Nathan officially made him a partner in the ranch operation. The young man had earned it through years of hard work and dedication. Thomas went to Denver to study business, with plans to return and help expand their horse breeding enterprise even further. Rose, true to her word, pursued her dream of becoming a doctor, one of the first women in Colorado to do so. Nathan and Eleanor supported all their children's ambitions, proud of the strong, independent people they had raised. On the ranch, they added a proper stable for the breeding horses, expanded the pastures, and built a second barn. They hired more help, creating jobs for young men in the area who needed work. Nathan developed a reputation as a fair employer who paid decent wages and treated his workers with respect. Eleanor was known for her kindness, often nursing sick ranch hands back to health or helping their families when times were hard. Catherine's husband, William, became the principal of the school in Breckenridge, and Catherine herself began teaching there part-time once her children were older. The sisters remained each other's closest confidante, sharing their joys and sorrows, their triumphs and challenges. The bond forged during those desperate days when Eleanor fought to keep Catherine alive never weakened. When Nathan turned 50, Eleanor organized a grand celebration at the ranch. Friends and family came from all over Colorado to help mark the occasion. There was food and music and dancing late into the night. At one point, Nathan pulled Eleanor aside away from the crowd, and they stood together looking out at everything they had built. 50 years old, Nathan mused. When I left Missouri at 24, I never imagined this. A wife I adore, 3 incredible children, a successful ranch, real friendships, a community I am proud to be part of. You gave me all of this, Eleanor. We gave it to each other, Eleanor corrected gently. I brought nothing but trouble when I arrived at your door. You were the one who saw past that to what we could be together. You brought everything I needed, even if I did not know it at the time. Nathan turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. I love you just as much today as I did that evening by the creek when I first told you. More, actually. That seems impossible, but it is true. Eleanor smiled, the same smile that had captivated Nathan from the beginning. I love you too. Always have, always will. They kissed, oblivious to the party continuing behind them, lost in their own moment of connection and gratitude. 25 years of marriage, 25 years of building a life together, and the spark between them still burned bright. As the celebration wound down and guests began to leave, Eleanor found herself sitting on the porch with Catherine, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. The two sisters sat in comfortable silence for a while before Catherine spoke. You ever think about what might have happened if that day had gone differently, if Nathan had not taken us in? Catherine asked. Sometimes, Eleanor admitted. Usually when I am counting my blessings. I think about how close we came to losing everything, including you, and then I think about how one man's kindness changed everything. More than kindness. Love. He opened his home because he was kind, but he opened his heart because he fell in love with you, and you with him. That is what really changed everything. Catherine reached over and squeezed her sister's hand. I am so grateful for Nathan, for this life, for everything we have. We were given a second chance and we made the most of it. We did, Eleanor agreed, and we are not done yet. There is still so much living to do, so much to be grateful for. Indeed, there was much more living ahead. They would see Henry marry a sweet young woman from a neighboring ranch and welcome grandchildren. They would celebrate Thomas returning from Denver with new ideas that would take their horse breeding operation to even greater heights. They would attend Rose's graduation from medical school, bursting with pride as their daughter achieved her dream despite all the obstacles put in her way as a woman in a male-dominated field. There would be hard times, too. The death of Doc Henderson, who had become a dear friend over the years. A drought that tested their resources and resolve. The normal heartaches and challenges that come with living a full life. But through everything, Nathan and Eleanor faced it together, their partnership unshakable, their love unwavering. On their 30th anniversary, the whole family gathered at the ranch for a celebration. Children and grandchildren filled the house with noise and laughter. Catherine and William were there, their own grandchildren playing with Nathan and Eleanor's. Friends from town came to pay their respects to a couple who had become pillars of the community. During the celebration, Henry stood up to make a toast. To my parents, he said, raising his glass. You taught us what real love looks like, not just the romance, though there is plenty of that. Everyone laughed as Nathan pulled Eleanor close and kissed her cheek. But the everyday love, the choosing each other day after day, year after year, the partnership, the respect, the way you have always supported each other's dreams while building something amazing together. You gave us the best gift parents can give their children, an example of what a marriage should be. So here is to 30 more years of the same. Here, here. Everyone chorused, raising their glasses. Nathan stood, keeping one arm around Eleanor. Thank you all for being here. But I need to say something, particularly to my wife. He turned to face Eleanor, his eyes soft with emotion. 30 years ago, I was a lonely man running a small ranch, convinced I was content with my solitude. Then you came into my life and everything changed. You brought love and laughter and purpose. You gave me children I am proud of, a family I treasure, a life beyond my wildest dreams. Every day with you has been a gift. I love you more than I can say, Eleanor Jennings. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." Eleanor was crying openly now, not bothering to wipe away the tears. "I love you too. So much. You saved us, Nathan. You gave us a home when we had nowhere to go. You gave us safety when we had known only fear. And you gave me a love I had only read about in books. You made all my dreams come true." They kissed while their family and friends applauded and cheered. It was a perfect moment, a culmination of 3 decades of love and devotion and partnership. Looking around at the full house, at the faces of children and grandchildren, at the sister who had survived because of her determination and Nathan's kindness, Eleanor felt overwhelming gratitude. That night, after everyone had left or gone to bed, Nathan and Eleanor took one more walk down to the creek. It had become a tradition over the years, visiting the place where Nathan had first declared his love. The cottonwood trees were larger now, providing deep shade in the summer. The creek still burbled along its ancient path, unchanged by the passage of time. "You remember how scared you were that night?" Nathan asked, settling onto their favorite spot on the bank. "When I told you I loved you." "I was terrified," Eleanor admitted, snuggling against him. "I thought I might be reading too much into your kindness. I thought maybe I was just desperate and lonely and confusing gratitude with love, but I was not. It was love right from the start." "It was," Nathan agreed. "Sometimes you just know. The moment I saw you driving that wagon, looking so fierce and determined despite being exhausted and scared, something in me recognized you. Like I had been waiting for you without knowing it." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds, the gentle flow of water, the rustle of leaves. These were the moments Eleanor treasured most. Not the big celebrations or major milestones, but these quiet times with the man she loved, feeling completely content and at peace. "Promise me something," Eleanor said after a while. "Promise me that no matter what comes, we will always have these moments together, this connection." "I promise," Nathan said without hesitation. "You and me always, until the end." It was a promise he kept. Through the years that followed, through aging and change and all of life's uncertainties, Nathan and Eleanor remained devoted to each other. They grew old together on the ranch they had built, surrounded by family and friends, secure in a love that had only strengthened with time. They saw their children married and settled in lives of their own. They delighted in their growing number of grandchildren, spoiling them just enough to make their parents roll their eyes but not enough to cause real trouble. They watched the world change around them, new inventions and ideas flowing west, the wild frontier gradually becoming more civilized. Through it all, they held firm to their values and to each other. On their 40th anniversary, they renewed their vows in a simple ceremony at the ranch, surrounded only by immediate family. It was Eleanor's idea, wanting to reaffirm the promises they had made 4 decades earlier. They stood in the same spot where they had married the first time, older now but no less in love. "I, Nathan, take you, Eleanor, to be my wife for all the years we have remaining," Nathan said, his voice steady and sure. "Just as I have loved you for all the years past. You are my heart, my home, my everything. I, Eleanor, take you, Nathan, to be my husband for whatever time God grants us," Eleanor responded, tears streaming down her face. "You saved me in every way a person can be saved. I will love you until my last breath and beyond." They exchanged new rings, simple gold bands engraved with the date of their first wedding. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife once more, their children and grandchildren cheered. Catherine, now a grandmother herself, cried happy tears, remembering that dusty day in August when her sister had driven a wagon to this ranch, desperately seeking help. So much had changed since that day. So much had been built from that one moment of kindness, that one decision by a lonely cowboy to open his home to strangers in need. Two women who had lost everything had found not just refuge but family, love, belonging. A man who had thought himself content in solitude had discovered the richness of partnership and family. And from that unlikely beginning had come decades of happiness, success, and love that touched everyone around them. Nathan and Eleanor lived well into their 70s, eventually handing over the day-to-day operations of the ranch to Henry while still remaining active in the business. They spent their later years doing the things they loved, riding together across the land they had built, spending time with their ever-growing family, sitting on the porch in the evenings sharing stories and memories. When Nathan fell ill in the winter of 1905, Eleanor never left his side. She held his hand through the fevered nights, cooled his forehead with damp cloths, told him stories of their life together. On a quiet morning in January, with Eleanor beside him and sunlight streaming through the window, Nathan took his last breath. "I love you," Eleanor whispered, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "Thank you for everything, for loving me, for building this life with me. I will carry you in my heart until we meet again." The funeral was one of the largest Breckenridge had ever seen. People came from all over Colorado to pay their respects to a man who had been a pillar of the community, a fair employer, a devoted husband and father. But for Eleanor, the most meaningful moment came when Catherine stood up to speak. "My brother-in-law saved my life," Catherine said simply. "Not just by getting me a doctor when I was sick, though he did that, but by giving my sister and me a home when no one else would, by treating us with dignity and respect when others saw us as burdens or threats. Nathan Jennings was a good man in the truest sense of that word. He saw people in need and he helped, without asking for anything in return. And in doing so, he found the love of his life. My sister and Nathan had 40 years of beautiful marriage, built on a foundation of kindness and mutual respect and genuine love. That is his legacy. Not just the successful ranch or the children and grandchildren, but the example of how to live with integrity and love. Eleanor lived another 5 years after Nathan's death, remaining active and engaged despite her grief. She took comfort in her family, in the ranch that had been their joint creation, in the memories of 40 wonderful years together. She knew without question that she had been blessed, that the desperate young woman seeking help for her sick sister had found far more than temporary refuge. She had found home, love, purpose, everything that made life worth living. On a spring morning in 1910, Eleanor passed away peacefully in her sleep, in the bed she had shared with Nathan for 4 decades. The family laid her to rest beside him, their graves marked with simple stones bearing their names, dates, and a single line, "Together always." Their children divided the ranch property between them, with Henry taking the main house and continuing the horse breeding operation, Thomas expanding the cattle side of the business, and Rose, who had become a respected doctor in Denver, returning to Breckenridge to establish a proper medical practice in her parents' honor. Catherine lived another decade, passing away in 1920 at the age of 72, surrounded by children and grandchildren who had all heard the story of the desperate journey that had brought her and Eleanor to Nathan's ranch. The story became family legend, passed down through generations. Great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren would visit the ranch, now expanded and modernized but still bearing the bones of what Nathan had built, and hear about how it all began. About 2 women who had lost everything, about a cowboy who had opened his home and heart, about love that grew from kindness into something eternal. The creek still flowed past the cottonwood trees, unchanged by the passage of time. The land still stretched out under the Colorado sky, beautiful and wild and free. And if you stood very still in certain spots on the ranch, you could almost feel the presence of the couple who had built it all, whose love had created something lasting and true. Nathan and Eleanor's story was one of second chances and answered prayers, of kindness rewarded and love triumphant. It was proof that sometimes, in the darkest moments, hope appears in unexpected forms, that opening your heart to help others can lead to receiving far more than you give. That real love, the kind that lasts, is built on a foundation of respect, partnership, and choosing each other day after day, year after year. And so the story lived on, a testament to the power of compassion and the enduring nature of true love. In a world that could be harsh and unforgiving, Nathan and Eleanor had created something beautiful together, a legacy that extended far beyond their own lives. They had taken a moment of desperate need and transformed it into 40 years of joy, building not just a successful ranch but a family, a community, a love story for the ages.